Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of From Page to Stage. I'm your host, Wendy Corner, and this podcast is for you if you're an entrepreneur. Yes, you heard me right. Page, stage, entrepreneur. Because if you are an entrepreneur, you may have a solo book, you may have an anthology book, you may have a blog, but I can guarantee you're on socials, aren't you? And what's that if it's not a published work? You're already an author. Didn't think about it that way, did you? Okay, well, what about the stage thing then? How many times have you been to a networking meeting? That's a stage. If you can have a one-on-one conversation with somebody, that's a stage. And this is what a podcast is. It doesn't have to be all the rah-rah on a physical stage with a microphone. There's different ways of getting onto a stage. So I think we've probably covered all bases. Welcome. Now, today, really excited to share with you a conversation with Tamara Simon, who's really all about the business and the entrepreneur stuff. And she's got a gorgeous titled book out. But I could wax lyrical about Tamara, but I'm going to let her introduce herself. Tamara, tell us a bit more about yourself and how you came to where you are now.
Well, that's too long a story. So I am a small business speaker, author, and coach. And I'm affectionately known as the Bob the Builder for small business. You know, can she fix it? Yes, she can.
Love it.
And I help owners navigate the complexity and challenging times of small business by helping them to solve those frustrating problems, simplify overwhelming systems, and support them when they're confused and in times of uncertainty. So they build a simple, profitable business they actually love, rather than maybe the nightmare that they're chained to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because so many of us go into entrepreneurship to get away from our job.
Yeah, or we fall into it like I did.
And then end up working even longer hours for ourselves. Right. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I've had my business for 20 years and it's certainly gone through all different machinations, as most businesses do, particularly if you're a service-based business like myself or a speaker and author and that. But basically I'm the problem solver and my job is to, take the business and make it better and help the owners and help the team, so that it's a lot easier than what they're struggling with and things like that. So that's what I did in employment. I used to be the person go in and fix stuff and go, right, I'm done now, move on. And then fell into business as a consultant and a trainer. And yeah, as I said, the business has gone through many machinations.
Right. So Bob the Builder, nice.
Yeah, Bob the Builder for small businesses.
I love it. I love it.
Got my toolkit.
Okay, so now obviously you're working in Australia. Do you have opportunity and would you work with people in other countries?
Oh, of course. At this stage, I've worked in Australia, but the world is now all global, particularly with virtual things. What we're doing now, you're in the UK, so happy to help anyone who's got a small. Because business is business, people are people, teams are teams. All of those same frustrations. All that changes really sometimes is the industry sector, and I love learning all about new ones. But as much as people say, but my business is different, Tamara, I go, okay, let's just have a chat, because there might be this much that's different, but the rest of it is the same.
As you say, humans are humans, regardless of where in the world they are. Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so I'm going to take you back in time for a bit. Your book came out when?
2016.
2016. Do tell us the name of it, please.
So my first book is The 5 Little Business Pigs.
Oh, cute.
And it is based on the fairy tale, The 3 Little Pigs, because that's how I believe we build our businesses, from straw to stick to brick.
Got it.
But what I discovered in writing the book is that there's 2 others. There's the Reno and there's the rundown. And then there's also that pesky wolf that just keeps coming in, trying to huff and puff and blow our businesses down constantly.
So the Reno is the renovation, isn't it?
Yes. Once we get to brick, Most people think, oh, well, I'm growing, Tamara, so I must be in renovation. And then you go, what's your biggest problems? Profit, cash flow, staff, that. Yeah, no, we need to go back. I don't think those foundations are as solid as what you think. So let's get you back to brick and make sure that all is solid so the wolf doesn't hit you. And then we can look at, now how do you innovate? Now how do you renovate and keep moving through as part of that?
Love it. Okay. So easy to progressive, build on the previous one, build on the previous one, build on the previous one. Do you loop back? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the book is split basically into 3 sections. So the first section talks about the concept that I use of the reluctant business owner.
Yeah.
I think that's what most of us, and I can certainly say that's me. You know, I was never entrepreneurial, didn't have a business when I was growing up. So these are the people that fall into it, look at their boss and go, I can do it better than you. You know, we're really good technicians, all of those type of things. So talking about that, and then realizing that, oh my goodness, there's all these other things we have to do in running a business rather than the fun stuff that I love to do. There's sales and marketing and finances and systems and all those other things. You know, so it starts there. And if people are still brave enough and reading beyond that, because that can be a little bit hitting you in going, yeah, that is me. I've had lots of people say, how did you know that that was me? And I said, because it's me.
Humans are humans.
Well, that's exactly right. You do write for yourself as well as writing for, you know, the ideal client. But yeah, so we get to that. We then go through the 5 pigs. And we go through what your business looks like in those stages and the signs. We go through the wolf. I then actually share that there's actually a 6th business pig.
Oh.
And yes, I know. And he's the mad business pig, the make a difference pig.
Got it.
Because I'm built on service and that's, you know, in my DNA. So we do that. So that's sort of the first section of the book. And then we move into, if you like, the guts of it. So it's really looking at, so how did we get here, and then what can we do? So it looks at the mistakes that people make when building their business, people, and systems. And then if they're still reading, which hopefully they are, because they're going, oh my God, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that. Then I share my 5-step process to help them get clear on their business, people, and systems. And so then they're able to do the last bit of the book, which is really, okay, if you're at straw, here's 3 things to do to get to stick, to brick, to reno. And if you're in that little rundown business, which might be the business, might be you, here's some questions you need to ask to work out, do I actually, you know, am I able to step up and change that? And do I want to? Or is it actually time to go, you know what, I've tried this, but it's not for me. And there's nothing wrong with that either, because you gave it a go. Because as you know, Wendy, like, this is a hard gig, right? You know, it's not linear success.
No.
You know, I describe my business journey as a snakes and ladders board game. I've absolutely gone up, down, and round and all those things. So, you know, this is a brave decision that people make to say, I'm not going to take the regular paycheck and I'm going to embark on this journey. So for some, it, you know, it continues and it works. And I've been lucky enough, 20 plus years, I'm still here through all these things. Yay. But for others, it's not quite for me. And I'd prefer that decision than to keep throwing money, because passion and hard work doesn't mean success, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, there are times when you got to take that step back and critically, not critique, not as in critic, but critiquing the situation and going, I think this isn't quite for me. And it's not a sign of failure.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. And I think that can be also one of the reasons why people continue doggedly on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've got to keep going and go, yeah, but look at the price you're paying, not only financially, but you're burnt out, you know, the price in terms of your health and your family and all of that. So I have had those honest conversations with owners to try and work out, because I go, you know, it's not worth this. This isn't what you signed up for. So either let's work together to fix it and build what you want, and look at what that means for you. Do you run it to someone else, etc.? Or is it time to go, okay, what else can we do, and help them through that, so that they don't just keep going, but I have to, because, and I go, no, you don't. Let's not do that, you know. And I've seen too much of that, and I'm sure you have too, Wendy, where you just go, You just got to stop. You just got
Yeah.
to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the burnout thing is so real,
Oh,
particularly with entrepreneurs. But as you say,
absolutely.
it doesn't even have to be a case of selling the business. It can be a case of putting a manager in.
Correct. Yep. You
And
do the bit
then,
that you're good at and get someone
yes,
to run it, and
yes,
wow, things turn around because there's joy again and
yeah,
all of that, so and sometimes I think owners get stuck in that because the cash is not there to do that. So it's
yes.
now about saying, okay, well, we can't do that tomorrow, but
Mhm.
let's work a strategy to get there. So in 3 to 6 months, what can we move around to enable that to happen? Which is a much better way of talking about it.
Yes, and also, I mean, if you in that situation, you could have a good business plan ready to take to say to get a business loan, because
Yes,
if you
that's
can
exactly right.
show that you're going to
Yes,
get a far better return,
correct.
the bank are going to go, well, of course.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Or investors, or even just, I found a lot of times in all our businesses, my coach finds it in mine. We need that external perspective to go, actually, I can find money in there for you. Have you tapped that? What
Yeah.
about that? But when we're in it, it's
Yeah.
just too hard and we can't see any opportunity. So
Yes.
yeah, that's why I love my job, to help people get out of that, because I don't want people struggling at all.
Yeah. It's
I
not
want them to love
necessary.
their business. Yeah, want them
Yeah.
to love their business 80% of every single day, because it's not all unicorns. You've got to be
No.
realistic, but if it's a nightmare 80% of every single day, then it's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. I absolutely love the piggy idea. I think it's so
love
cute.
my pigs. Yeah, and it's a metaphor that everyone goes, oh, I think I'm at straw tomorrow. I think I'm at stick. I don't want to know what the other two are. So, and yes, my wolves are this and this and this. So
Yeah.
it was a nice metaphor. And that's, I've always done presentations, and I needed something that people could
Yes.
grasp really easily that
Yeah.
worked. And then they can get into the guts of it.
It's grasping, and it's also incredibly memorable.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
as you well know, when you tell a good story, it goes in at the subconscious level, and the conscious brain, which is going, oh, well, that's a load of tosh, goes, hang on, no, subconscious listening,
Yes,
subconscious listening.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. So, what prompted you to write it in the first place?
So I've been a speaker for a very long time. Did presentations at school and all that. Wish someone in high school and said, hey, did you know you can get paid to speak? Because I did other things before I learned that you could do that. That would have
Yes,
been handy, But in that sort of speaking environment, I was always told, you need a book, you need a book, you need a book. Okay, yeah, well, I wasn't at that stage the writer. Never viewed myself as a writer, certainly viewed myself as the speaker. Right.
yes,
But with the, blogs and different things, but I could never, because I'm what some would describe probably as a business generalist. I'm very good at lots of things within the
okay,
business, good at the strategy, good at the detail, good at the people, all of that, rather than just sort of one area that many people can focus on. So, that does make it a bit tricky sometimes. So to try and come up with, well, what would the book be and all that sort of stuff. And that's always been, so it's probably been easily 10 plus years of going, what should this book be? What should this book be? I know there's something in there, and never quite being able to sort of grasp it. And then
yeah,
a couple of years probably before the book sort of started, I did a webinar about the Three Little Pigs as a presentation. And then I thought, I think there might be something there. I think I might have suddenly got, and the wolves and all those type of things. So it really came about because I went, okay, well, that's what the book's going to be. Great. And and then it had to get written quite quickly. So we're in, let's say, November, December 2015. I had submitted a application to speak at a conference in May 2016 when I was going to launch. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're doing the math. Yeah. When I was going to launch the second book, which is the Five Little RTO Pigs, because I have a strong background in registered training organisations. So in Australia, that's accredited training. So apprenticeships, traineeships, that type of stuff, right? So that was the deadline, was May, to write the RTO Pigs book and to launch it. But I had to write the Business Pig book first, because it's that book then rewritten and customised for that sector.
yes,
So in the December, I'm going, I really don't have much written here. This might be a bit tricky because you can't just publish. Not only can you not, you have to write quickly, but there's other people involved in
Yes.
publishing,
Yes.
editors and graphic designers and all those type of things. So, so January 2016, I smashed out the Business Pigs book and had a day off, and then sent that to the editor. And while that was at the editor, I then rewrote, and within about 2 weeks probably had the RTO Pigs one done. Then when the first one came back with changes, that was then I was going, yep, no, yep, sent that back, and then put those changes into the next one. And so then I always say that I've written and published 2 business books in less than 6 months, because the RTO Pigs one did come like within 2 days of when I was launching. The books just arrived in time for the conference.
Like skin off their teeth.
So tight, and then I did the official launch for Business Pigs in the July.
Right.
So it was an insane time. And because my books, and I didn't know at the time, right? So I wrote chapter by chapter. That's how my brain works. So I just had, all I had was a contents page.
Right.
And then went, right. And so each night I would just write and then go, okay, done that one, next one. And it was only when I put the book together that I realized, business books mainly about 35,000 words. Mine was 55. And I went, okay. So the comment from the editor was, I think maybe there's 2 books or maybe, and I really had to make the decision because I didn't know if I was going to write another book. Okay. And my view was, if I'm writing a book, I want a book that works, that is valuable, and that helps. Yes. And if that means it's bigger, because that was where I stood with it. I didn't want to just say, well, I've just written a book, but I'm not proud of it. I needed to be proud of it. And because the way I'd written the book, there really wasn't much that I wanted to take out, because it was solid. I knew it would stand the test of time in terms of the information and all those type of things.
Sure.
So my Business Pigs is 55,000 words. My little RTO Pigs is 65,000 words, because not only the changes, but at the end of each chapter, there's contextualization with tables and all that for that sector. So I now say that I actually wrote four books in 6 months, because they're double the size, but I've only got 2 as the proof, So, so it is brilliant. Possible, but so, puts a bit of pressure on.
Can I interrupt for a minute? Obviously, this is a large volume.
Yeah.
As you say, more than the average book. So is it a case of each chapter builds on the previous one, or so you have to read it cover to cover, or is it one that you can dip into, find the chapter that's most relevant for you, deal with that, then sit back, think about, right, that's what I was hoping for, because that's the point, isn't it? In the modern age, when it's instant gratification, the too long didn't read mentality can come in. If you see a massive great tome, they go, ooh, that's really good to clarify.
It's got the ability of both, so you can read it straight through and it does build. But you can just go, I just want to read this chapter. And particularly after the pigs and everything, where you're looking at, okay, I want to know the mistakes about building a business. Well, that's that chapter. I know I'm at stick, there's that chapter. So yes, it builds sequentially, but I needed to make sure that both were applicable, because that's exactly what people do, and also it's a little bit hard hitting, because there's bits in it go, I really hope you keep reading. And if you are, I'm so grateful, because this is now the next bit. I'm going to give you solutions now. You've been hit over the head a bit, but here's now the solutions and stuff. So it enables people to float in and out. And the feedback I've gotten is that's what people did as well. But most people have read it from cover to cover, because of, it was like you were standing next to me talking to me, Tamara. So how did you know how to do that?
And you've got the practical steps in there as well.
I'm very practical. So I wanted to make sure that all the way through, not only did it recognize the mistakes, or, why, and not beat people over the head with that, but just say, this is why this happens, but how then, what's some practical stuff? And that's particularly that second part of the book, so that they can go, just give me one thing I can do right now that will save me some time, make me some more money, help me lead, all of those things. And I'm very big on that.
Great. Well, I mean, that's your background in the workshopping stuff, isn't it? The facilitating stuff.
Very
Yeah.
much so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. People come to my sessions they say, Tamara tells it like it is. And she gives us stuff that we can implement straight away, regardless of where we are in our businesses. And I pride myself on that, because anyone can, be on webinars, workshops, whatever. And then you go back to your office, whether that's a workplace or your business, and life goes on. Well, we need to give people something, and there's so many ideas out there. Just give them something concrete. If this is the thing, just do this bit first, and then get momentum and traction as part of that.
Because I said, if I see that I've got a win, then it's worth going back to it. Okay, what next? What next? What next? And you say you build the momentum in there. Okay, well, you mentioned
with your house.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were not naturally considering yourself a writer. So
no, I do now.
Yeah, absolutely, you do now. So one of the questions that I often ask people is, when did you first start writing? I've had guests who've been writing since they were 4. I've had one who had a screenplay written by the time she was 10. And
oh, goodness. No.
I'm hearing from you that you're not a natural, it's not been part of life all the way through.
No, not all the way through. So I think with the evolution of blogs, I've always been able to write. But, like even at school, when you had to do, essays or whatever, I would generally find something historical or so, so the creative writer, I'm creative in different ways. But no, never wrote stories or things like that. But because I'm very practical, I've always been up, there's 7 tips for this or this particular issue, or I saw this in sport and this is a great leadership thing. So blogs, I've been writing blogs for a really long time. Because that's, builds your social media and other things like that. But the book itself came about because, I needed to, but also the idea came and stuff like that. So I think also too, I got confidence because I was writing for a small business platform where I was one of the founding contributors for articles. And because you had to submit them and things like that, I was accepted as that founding contributor. And again, because my articles weren't being really edited, I mean, I'm a proofreader, by trade a little bit, but that probably gave me the confidence of I can write, so now, the biggest thing for me is just the discipline to get it out of my head to write, because I'm just used to speaking it. So I used a dictaphone, the old dragon dictation from years ago, that had that, and that's how I wrote the book, because the ideas come out when I speak, and then that means it's conversational in the book, which is what people have said. So that's how I wrote, is I would think of the idea and then just run it, and then just type it back up and tighten it and things like that. So, but I would never have said, oh yes, I'm a writer. And my parents would always say, yeah, she's always been talking.
Did you journal as a younger person?
Floated in and out of that. So I think, in teenage, the Dear Diaries and even in, adult life, I floated in and out of journaling because I get bored, being honest. But I know that when my thoughts are too much here, I know I need to journal to get things out and stuff like that. So I've started to use those tools, but not a religious, I get a bit stiff when it's something like, okay, I've got to journal every day. Then it doesn't flow for me as sort of part of that. So, and my writing probably is similar, because I just need, it sounds like I'm a different author to many from what I understand. A lot of people need, okay, I'm going to write at 5 o'clock every day, or 5 o'clock in the morning, and people said that to me, oh, Tamara, just get up early. Well, my brain doesn't work early. So I wrote from about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and smashed stuff out. So I think that's a lesson for your listeners of, not everyone's an early bird. So find the time, when you get your groove and things like that. But my writing is more, I need the headline, even with blogs. I just need the headline or the idea, and then I can run and I can smash it out quite quickly and stuff. Whereas other people, it's different processes. So, I think it's important to find your own groove, rather than trying to be something that you're not.
You do you.
You absolutely do you know, but yeah, it wasn't going to be 5 o'clock in the morning for me. It was 6 o'clock at night in the dark. John, I need half an hour more before dinner. I'm on a roll.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, some people are early birds. I find it really helpful because I have an international network. I'm at the moment I'm sitting in the UK, as we've mentioned already, but I've often been, I was based in Perth for 10 years, working with people in America and Canada. And so if they are prepared to be, I can do the early birds or the night owls. And then I take some time off in the middle of the day.
Yes.
Because otherwise you end up, I have been online at 4:30 in the morning and still online at 10 o'clock at night.
Yes, okay.
That's a recipe for burnout. You've got to have that time out in the middle.
Absolutely. And I do that even with coaching, Wendy. Like I have morning coaching sessions and afternoon, because again, some people, that's when they're at, and others go, no, I just want to get the business going and then I want to talk to you. Not a problem at all. So, you know, it's horses for courses. So
exactly,
whatever works for you, that gets it out in a quality process, that's what I recommend.
Beautiful. So we talked about your writing stuff. We've kind of covered a little bit of your speaking journey. You were speaking in a training capacity as in corporates. Tell us a bit more about your speaking journey, would you?
Yeah, so I suppose I've always done presentations, as I said, school, and I was always up on school assemblies because I was president of this and, you know, those type of things. So that's always been there. And I think in all my roles that I've done from an employment perspective, a lot of times it was presenting new information, whether that was to employers or to school teachers or whatever. So I just naturally am able to do that workshop environment, a natural facilitator, do a lot of, you know, brainstorming and strategy stuff and things like that. So, and then spoken at conferences, and that might have been in the roles that I was in. I was then presenting on particular, you know, topics or projects. And then for myself, it depended on whether I was delivering workshops for clients or whether I was speaking at conferences about improving your business and other things like that. So it's always, it's just been there. And it's just the tool that I use, and webinars and all of those things.
Because what we're talking about there are some very subtly different skill sets. I mean,
absolutely.
Training and facilitation, keynoting, those are three very different skills. They're complementary, but they are different. This is what I was saying in the introduction, that a lot of people will assume that public speaking is the rah-rah motivational keynoting. It doesn't have to be. And each one of those that you've mentioned is a different skill set. Podcasting is a different skill set. Virtual summits. Do you do much virtual work in terms of summit speaking?
I've done a little bit, haven't fully explored that, but I've done certainly a lot of webinars. And I think when webinars came in many years ago, I just found that I gravitated to that quite easily. But you're right, it's a very different skill set, because I facilitate, that's the same, I present exactly the same way. So you've just got to think that the people are there, and how can you bring them in through the chat or through other ways to get them thinking, knowing that you're probably not seeing them. I mean, it is a bit more on Zoom these days, but certainly the platforms that I've been on, it's more me the chat. But I've seen a lot of presenters who can't do virtual, and I've seen a lot of presenters that are great at virtual and shouldn't be on stage, and vice versa. But it's interesting that you talk about those skills, because a couple of weeks ago I've been at a 4-day speaker business retreat working on the speaker business, and we've been talking about, you know, where do you want to position yourselves, because you're exactly right, that keynote which is very aspirational. That's what a keynote's about, and it's to take people up to a level versus that workshop presenter. So I can do both, but I specialize in being that workshop. I like, you know, people in a room, how can we solve the problems right there and all that sort of stuff. But a lot of people, particularly if you come from a training background, think that a keynote is just a longer workshop, and it's not. It's very, very different skill set. So again, it's thinking about, well, you know, what skills do I like? Some people love emceeing. Yes, I've done it.
And
but,
that
you know,
is a very different skill set.
Exactly, particularly if it's a dinner MC for awards and things like that.
Yes.
You've got to tell people to sit down and all those type of things. So I've done a few of those. But again, it's working out as a speaker, which bits do you love, which bits are you really good at, so that you don't actually say yes, yes, yes to everything and become a master of none.
Yes.
Which I think is really important. So, but I love the facilitate. I really love sort of the off the cuff stuff. So I do a lot of speed problem solving in my workshops. Just give me a question, let me help and all that. But for a lot of other people, they'd go, oh my God, I couldn't do that tomorrow. So that's right. I think well on my feet. That's my superpower, and I can do that.
Yes.
But other people can do, a whole lot of other skills and those keynotes where you go, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. So it's working your lane, I think, versus going, well, I just want a keynote. And you go, yeah, but there's not a lot of those opportunities. Conferences, there's maybe one or two. So there's a lot more diversity, and we're seeing that with speakers. Can you be on a panel? I love doing that. It's how can we help at events where they're all different ways. And as you said, if you can have a conversation, you can be on a panel.
Yes.
You can run Q&A sessions and all these type of things. So it's so much more than the presenter on the stage, which is wonderful. I loved your intro because it's absolutely true. If you can have a conversation, then there's opportunities.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the thing is, there are a number of business authors who they've come to the idea, as you said earlier on, I need a book for my business.
Absolutely.
And
fun factor.
when I say, well, are you speaking about it? Oh, no, my book speaks for itself. And you go, yeah, how are the book sales going? Oh, not so good.
Yeah.
We had we had 10 episodes of the podcast ready to roll on the day we launched. Audience, if you haven't seen the launch party, go and check it out. We actually had a party to launch this podcast. It's called.
As you should.
Well, it's called From Page to Stage. And if you've been involved with any anthology books, then you'll know that they all have all the authors get together. There's a big party to celebrate the fact that it's being launched. Well, I took the idea from the page and applied it to the stage. One of the authors that we had on that day, she had put her book out in 2017 and it hit bestseller in 2023, which kind of is a bit in reverse to what most people do. They have the big launch, hit the bestseller, and then it tends to fizzle because they don't do any further speaking about it.
Yes.
So I said to her, so what was your secret? I spoke about it every possible opportunity. I set up my own YouTube channel. I've invited people in to talk about my book, and that's what she did. So she was basically my poster girl for this is why you need to talk about your books.
Yeah. So, and that's the bit that I didn't do. Because I had both books, my RTO book, because of the world that I was in, it went off. So then I launched my little business pigs and it did okay, but I didn't leverage the poor little, pigs, because I was in this RTO world. And so it's only now that I've come back and go, oh, the poor little pigs. So, and so that's now what's happening. Then I'm on podcasts and speaking about it and leveraging it, because you go, otherwise, well, no one's going to care unless you actually do that and start talking about it, and even if you don't want to be on stage, talk on podcasts.
Yes.
Go, oh, that's a great idea. Didn't know about that. So, but you have to leverage it. Otherwise it just sits there.
It becomes a very expensive calling card.
It does. And I'm absolutely understanding that, so we still got some boxes and different things. And I'm toying up whether I do sort of an updated chapter because, thankfully the book, has stood the test of time, but I'm just thinking about that, or do I put that time and energy into the next book, which is sort of percolating around. So we're thinking about that, but it's a hard lesson to learn because you get tired, you write the book, and I wrote 2 and went, I have to have a lie down, like, you don't really doing much about it. So
I'm taking it that January audience, let me just give you a little bit of an insight into Australian life. January, nothing happens. It's summer holidays. People basically do not work between Christmas and Australia Day, which is the 25th. Yes?
26th.
26th. I always get the 25th, 26th, 26th of January. And in that time, most people are on the summer holes and business basically shuts down in that time, which is ideal for getting your business owners onto personal development stuff, because they don't expect to do any business in that time. Just saying, if you have an audience in Australia, that's a really good time to do it.
Yes, and it was a very challenging time for me, Wendy, because I love my sport. So in January in Australia, that's cricket season and
Yes.
Australian Open tennis. So here I
Yes.
am trying to watch that, right? I was very conflicted. And then I had to just go, no, I had to keep writing until it was done, and then I could enjoy, the things. So there's always a price,
Yeah, exactly. But well done, you got it out. So again, audience, this is where podcasts come in really, really handy, because you can reach a much wider audience. The thing to do is to identify, where does your target market hang out? Which are the podcasts that they are looking at, listening to? Go find the authors, do a bit of research. Then you can pitch to them. But you do need to do it in a way that's not, this is all about me. This is all about the audience. This is all about making the podcast host look good. There's an art to it. And that's how I can help you make the most of your podcast opportunities. Okay, that was a little shameless plug on my behalf.
I love that.
Thank you. So we know you're writing, and you kind of mentioned there might be another one percolating.
There's certainly some ideas there. So yes, there's a couple of little ideas there. So we just got to wait.
I'm not going to push you for. Do you have a title? Do you have a date? We've had a few exclusives on this show. That's why
I have the titles. I don't have the dates at the moment. So we have ideas about the titles, but we may, that's the next podcast that we'll chat with you about, Wendy.
Absolutely.
Come back.
Again, I'll pick up on that point if I may tomorrow. Audience, when you have a book or a program that's launching, that's particularly when you want to be up in the minds of the people that you want to attract in. So you do the reverse engineering. There are some people who have very popular podcasts who record months out. So you have to think, right, this is the date that I'm aiming for. When can I start booking in? There will be lag time, so you need to factor that in. The other thing is, use your socials. Seed that you're excited that you're writing this book. This is how far you've got. Bring people along the journey, so that when it comes to publication, they want to read what they've been hearing about.
Absolutely. And a tip for your listeners, Wendy, if they're not doing it, is the book becomes real initially when you get the cover.
Yes.
Right. So get your cover design straight away. You'll change the words probably on the back and stuff like that, but you'll see in the background of my, that's my little pigs and stuff. And that was on my board all the time. Yeah. And so that's the bit that you can share of, like here's my pigs and, all those. So whatever you can do, but the cover the cover goes, oh, crikey. And it also puts a deadline on you, because you go, well, I've got to create this book because look at this beautiful cover that, my designer's done for me. Yes. But yeah, if that can help with inspiration, when the words don't always flow and whatever, but that's where people can start to get excited, and little drip feed little things and stuff like that. Yeah, that the cover became very real for me.
We're visual beings.
Very
and so
absolutely.
The cover will either excite you or scroll.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if you've got a couple, put that out on your socials. Hey, this is what I'm thinking. The book sort of is about this. These are the ideas I've got. Understand you need to get critiqued from, or feedback from your ideal audience. So be careful, of the opinions of one and stuff like that. But I certainly had, some groups of people going, this is what I'm thinking. And they went, yeah, that's really good. But it's got to relate to you as well. I'm a bit quirky. I needed something that was quirky, and I gave those ideas of the pigs to the designer, and what he came up with was fabulous. So you've got to be proud.
Give us another flash.
See if I can do it. Oh, Hang on.
Oh, I've lost you.
Just because of the virtual background, it's a bit
Yeah.
tricky.
Oh, there we go.
So
Oh,
all
that's
of them
so
have
cute.
got their little things, and the little rundown's got a little question mark over his head going, I don't know.
Beautiful,
And
beautiful.
I've got wolves and all those type of things as well as part of it. So, and it's all the design process, and that's the fun stuff that can, you know, whatever type of book you're writing, you need something like that, I think, just to
Yes.
keep you going when those words, you know, or the editor comes back and you think, oh my God, look at all the changes or things to consider. So, yeah.
On the visual front, I'm gonna digress for a minute.
Yeah.
My background is in speech pathology, audience, if you didn't know. And there was a study done on, I think there were radiographers who were asked to look at a whole raft of x-rays or brain scans, whatever it was. And what did they pick up from it? So they duly did their reports, and off it went. Well, 6 months later, they sent exactly the same reports to be reread with photos of the individuals to whom they related. They picked up on so many more things second time round with the photos, because suddenly there was a person attached to it.
That's right.
That visual stuff is so important.
Yep, very much so. One of the tips that I got, and you probably would know as well, Wendy, is that I was told when you're writing, write for someone.
Yes.
So I had a picture of my ideal client. They're a husband and wife team that I'd worked with, and they were up on my board. I had to keep writing for them, writing for them because, you know, they had done the journey and stuff like that. So again, it's just those little things that keeps you focused and keeps it conversational. Again, you know, I'm speaking from a business, you know, writing perspective, but always have a picture or something of I'm just writing for one person, and that's who I'm helping, whether that's fiction or non-fiction. And again, that was a great tip for me in this, you know, book writing process.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the having your, well, when I'm working with speakers, again, we do the who are you speaking to? Have that person, give them a name, give them a bio, give them a background. Where do they live? Are they married? What's their partner's name? What are the children's names? How old are they? Do they have pets? All of that, really get into their skin, literally. And then you will have the language to be able to speak directly to them, both head and heart. You've made the connection, ping, off you go. Yeah.
That's right. And I mean, to me, the best, I mean, obviously I was pleased when people said, oh, it's a great book and stuff, but the best feedback that I continue to get was that people said to me, it was like you were sitting having a conversation with me.
Yes.
And that was what I wanted. It was practical, but that was the bit that I wanted, which meant it wasn't scary. It meant I was just having this conversation. And in, you know, in the business world, that's what you're looking for in that writing process, because that takes people on a journey versus it being sort of that third person, or you're talking about someone else, you're not talking about me. So use of, you know, you and all those type of things is important.
Definitely. I mean, the thing is, when we're in school, we're taught to write formally.
Yes.
And the essays that you mentioned going through school, I think it's a very different process when you're writing for an audience.
Yes.
And as you say, if you write it in that sort of business, I mean, creative writing was knocked out of me at university because it had to be done in that specific way.
Yes.
So when I was given the opportunity to contribute to a book, I'll be honest, I didn't want to do it. I'm not an author, but a friend of mine had signed up for this, sadly had an illness situation that she couldn't fulfill the contract, and said, look, Wendy, here it is, do it. I'm not asking for any money.
Yep.
Well, when it's handed to you like that, okay. That was the first book that came out in January 23. And then I love the way you having about the Mad Pig, because last year we put out a Mad anthology, Making a Difference, Ways to Magnify Abundance, Vitality and Freedom.
Oh, I love it.
Yep. So, and actually, you know about the Raw Awards.
Yes.
Yeah, we won a gong for being in the Mad category.
Oh, fantastic. Well done.
Yeah, that was really, really special. I didn't go into it this year because I'm not actually in Australia, but yeah. Sorry, audience, that's a little bit of an in thing in Australia. Anyway, so we know about your writing, we know a bit about your speaking, we know about your beautiful book, and you're doing some work on promoting that. We also know that you've got a few ideas percolating in the background. So maybe 25, maybe 26, we'll see. Audience, we have dynamic show notes. So when I have a guest who comes back and says, oh, such and such is happening, I'm putting out a new book, or we've got a program that we're launching or something, or this is where I'm going to be speaking, I go back in, change the show notes, do a quick social blast and go, do you remember that brilliant conversation? Well, go back and check on those show notes because there's an extra link in there. And by the way, go back and listen to the full conversation I had with Tamara. It was fabulous. Like and subscribe. That's the way that the show notes run. And if I do have guests who put out a second book, we usually have them back in again and go, come on, tell us about this one.
Well, when we get to that point, you will be the first one. Wendy, here's the cover. Here's the cover. Here's the title.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's really exciting. And thank you for pointing that out because, audience, I'm writing a book at the moment, My Life with 20 Kilos, but I haven't got the cover sorted. So that's something you've really prompted me to go, come on, you got to get going on this now, because my aim is to publish next June.
Nice.
So I'm living my whole year with 20 kilos to see how it goes. So, yeah.
Nice. And I love the title. And, from someone, I heard from someone you can write books in less than 6 months, Wendy. So no problem.
Yeah. No, I mean, and we were saying about seeding. I've actually got a Facebook page and an Instagram page, My Life with 20 Kilos, and I put a daily reel on there as to what's going on in the background.
Nice.
So again, audience, here we go. If you've got a book coming out, you specifically think strategically, here's launch date. How do I work backwards? How do I bring my audience along? So when it comes to publication, bing, and you don't just leave it there.
That's right.
It's not the
launch. Don't do what I did and just leave the poor little pigs alone. You keep leveraging and take them on a journey as part of that, even if you get busy.
Yeah,
because you will grow sick of your book before your audience does.
Absolutely, because you will always have a new audience.
Correct.
As a business person, how many touch points are we looking at these days?
Used to be about 7.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of touch points, what we're saying is how many times does someone need to see you or hear you or read something about you before they sort of trust you and might come onto your list?
Yeah.
We are seeing, and I think this is particularly a post-COVID thing, we're seeing that buying decision has become a lot longer.
Yes.
Right. So it is about what are those different opportunities that to let people into your world so that, we talk about don't sell to them on the first thing, so give, ask is a good little, 4-prong thing. But it's like dating. Don't marry people on the first date. People want to get to know you. Some people might do that, but that's what we're talking about. So it's what's your LinkedIn profile look like? What's your Facebook? Where are your social channels? For me, they're the two, and mainly LinkedIn. But then I've got a blog, and then you've got your website, and then you might be on a podcast and things. You might be doing a webinar. So what are all those different touch points? They might join your newsletter, and then it's all these things that people are looking for to go, oh yeah, I don't mind that. So with my book, people can download the first 3 chapters for free. So that gives them an idea into how I write, how I work, am I the right fit? Because if they get through those, where I'm talking about the reluctant business owner, the wolves and some of the pigs, it's not actually about the book. If they buy it, fantastic, right? But it's actually about them getting to know me and my style. And, so it's thinking about all those things of how do I plant seeds? How do I continue to give value before it's buy the book or, buy my program or buy my services? So give, and then ask rather than sell up front. We've got to build that community and help them as much as possible along those touch points. But yeah, we're thinking probably about 9 or 10, or it still might be the 7, but longer. It's taking people longer to buy, you know, particularly in light of COVID and particularly in light of cost of living pressures and things like that.
Exactly. Thank you for clarifying that, because I was wondering whether it had gone up because of, as you said, the trust has diminished since COVID, because everybody's so anxious and nervous about things these days. That's
right. And I think there's even more information coming at us. So it's thinking about how you do that. So I post sort of daily on LinkedIn and Facebook, but I don't do much more than that. And the reason for that is because, yes, it mightn't fully do the cut through, but I have to practice what I preach. So if I'm helping people get out of overwhelm, my job is not to add to that. My job is to say, if you're part of my social media, as an example, you get one thing, you know, which might be an article, or it might be I'm sharing content from someone else, or I'm shining the light on someone, or whatever it is. So I think all of that is important as well, to be thinking about, you know, where does that cut through, because less is more.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I've been keeping up to, when I've been looking in on LinkedIn, there you are doing videos. And that again, hello audience, if you're considering that the talky bit is a bit scary and you don't know what to do with the camera, note to self, the video work is the most powerful. It is what the algorithms push forward. And when you know what you're doing in terms of looking at a camera as opposed to looking at the person,
like I'm doing,
makes a difference, because it's the eye contact. I've actually, where's my phone gone? I've actually done I haven't got it to hand, which is stupid. I have a little face with an eye cut out, which I suggest to people when they're doing lives on camera. Where's the camera? It's up here. Don't look at your picture here, look up here. Particularly if you've got it on the portrait thing. Because the thing is, we are hardwired to look at faces from evolutionary perspective. First thing you had to recognize was the source of your food, i.e. face of mum. You've got to be able to give the eye contact. It makes such a difference when you're doing a piece to camera. Look directly to the camera.
Yes, and I haven't done that well today, I know, because I'm drawn to the person. But you're exactly right in terms of videos, and it's something I have to get better at, because the YouTube channel, that's what I'm looking at the moment, to do tips and things like that. But yeah, you're right. And I find that hard on Zoom when I'm even when I'm coaching, because you're just drawn there, you know, so you're trying to, you know, get that engagement and things like that. A bit different to, you know, a camera piece. But so apologies.
No, don't worry. Big tip here. If you've got people side by side, inevitably you're going to get drawn to the face. What I do is tile people one above the other directly under the camera. So this is me looking directly at the camera. This is me looking at you. Camera, you. Camera, you. It's not a big difference.
Yes. Thank you. That's a great tip. And I see, it's the simple stuff, but I will do that from now on, because that will be better on Zoom, and we better when I'm interviewing on podcasts.
It makes such a difference, but it's those little subtle things. So there you go, audience. We've dropped a few stellar nuggets for you today.
Absolutely.
Go back and review this. Take those notes. Start actioning. You've got some wonderful information from Tamara here, and also a couple of sneaky bits in from me. So we know about your speaking, we know about your writing, we know what you've got on the go at the moment. I'm going to ask you, when you take your words from page to stage, how do you embody them?
How do I embody them? So I think because I'm very practical, that's how I embody it. So I'm always making sure that my presentations, whether that's a workshop or Keynote or facilitating, that it's got a metaphor in some way.
Yes.
So, you know, it might not be the peas, it might be something from sport or something else. So it's giving someone a story to land on and show that connection, I think, is really important. Very much providing 3 things. So I use that all the time, use it in coaching, use it in speaking. but also give people, one challenge, so there might be all these ideas, but if you're in this situation, his might be the first step, because I think, we've got to put down that first brick
Yes.
as part of that process. So, and I think too, I embody that, this is how I coach, this is how I present. I'm very authentic. I do absolutely call things how they are. I will put tough love in there when needs to be, and I'm comfortable that I'm the right fit for most, but not everyone.
Yes.
And that's really important, I think, as a presenter and as an author. It's presenting those ideas. I mean, I have people go, right, I didn't think much of that. I go, that's okay. It's all right. But I know most people did, but again, it's about that one connection. I'm looking for one connection in audience. If I get one person to move, their thinking, their mindset, their actions or something, and just the same as in a book, we just want that one bit. So I suppose that's how I embody. And, I'm very quirky. I have purple hair, I use props in different ways and all that sort of stuff. So, and that's probably through the book as well. So I'd say that's how I embody it. And I make sure that, that I live it and I get it, as part of that. So I'm very proud of my book, but I wanted to make sure that I wrote something that was practical, that was relevant, that would stand the test of time, but had a bit of fun in it as well, because I mean, you look at the cover and, if you don't like that, then I'm not your right fit, and that's okay. So
Exactly. Yeah. Because I mean, well, I'm getting back to the thought of my book cover. My Life with 20 Kilos, on the surface of it, looks as though it's a travel blog. It ain't.
No, so, and I love that title. It's just awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was talking about at Cambridge University, and talking about props. I wheeled in my case. I just left it there. I didn't say anything to start with.
Yep.
But then when I mentioned it, that's it.
That's right. Yeah.
That's what 20 kilos looks like. Because, of course, there's a American market is going to go, what's 20 kilos? Somebody said to me the other day, they when they heard kilos, they thought of cocaine, shipping cocaine. No.
Language barriers.
Yes, because of course they think in pounds.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I had to say, so that's about 66 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's a great point, isn't it, about where your audience is? You've got to use the language of your audience, and you might have a thought over here, but you've got to translate it. Otherwise you'll lose them as part of that process. So that's important as well.
Can I share with you something that happened to me? We talk about quirkiness. Audience, you'll laugh at this. My first networking meeting in Australia as a Brit, turned up in a rather smart pair of trousers. Yeah, somebody commented on how lovely my pants were. And I'm going, embarrassed. Went off to the ladies, because in the UK, pants are what you wear next to your skin.
Yeah, okay.
So I thought, no, my flies were not undone. I was fine. So sort of calmed myself down, went back into the room, and somebody who had witnessed this little conversation and knew I was quite fresh off the boat said, she was talking about your trousers, don't you? I went bright red again. Now, had that happened in America, not a problem. I know they call them pants. I was not aware that Aussies call trousers pants.
Yeah.
Do now. And there have been some other beautiful examples. I was recording a podcast with an American gentleman, and I gave a British turn of phrase, and he's an Afro-American gentleman, and he blushed. I'm going, oh dear, I must have said something a little unfortunate there. So he very gently said, could you explain what you mean by that? He said, well, judging from your reaction, not the same as you thinking it is.
And look, that happened, and you got to laugh it off, and you got to didn't know.
Yes, it's lost in translation. It's those wonderful, priceless stories. You were mentioning about stories, priceless stories that you can tell to an audience. They're going to remember that.
That's exactly right.
If they remember nothing else, they'll remember that.
And if you can land a message in the middle of it as well, awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's right. And that's what storytelling is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. As we're coming full circle then, Tamara, is there anything we've missed off?
I don't think so.
Any final words of wisdom for us?
I think because you're from page to stage. So if we talk about your audience where you're thinking about a book and stuff like that, just start writing and think. I think the cover is a great place to start, in the title.
Mm-hmm.
So to see what can come out of that. And I'm very much of the view that if you're going to write a book, don't just write a book and say I've written a book, and get it on Amazon bestseller. Write a great book that actually serves a purpose and delivers on that. And if that means it takes you 3 years to write, or it takes as long as it takes to write, then you've got a great book, because you need to be proud of this thing, because not only is it the time and money that goes into the writing of it and the publication, all that sort of stuff. Put all of that aside. I have seen small business authors who do not like their book, are not proud of their book, because it was just, I had to write a book, so I wrote this book, and really not, why would you do that? I mean, it's an expensive, hobby, so, but give it a go and see if it's you. And as I said, even if you're more the speaker, look at ways of dictation and things like that, because my brain went faster than I type, and I type pretty fast. But that gets your ideas out, and then once you're in there, then you can fine tune and things like that. And I think for those speakers who are going, you're maybe a bit like me, going, oh, I want to do a book. I think the messaging is the same as well. My author coach said there's a book inside every one of us. And it's trying to figure out what that is, and how that might evolve for you as part of that process. But I suppose my nugget is, don't be like me and not leverage the book. If you write it, and it was because I had two, that's really, there was a reason for it. But it's so important to leverage your book every single day in all different ways. Send your books to people and all of that. I was given great advice that if you don't ask, the answer is always no. It's a great thing in life, great thing in business. So find podcasts. I've been doing, that's how I found Wendy. I was just looking for small business podcasts, and I just wrote and said, hey, I've written this book. I'm a presenter as well. Might I be a great guest? And here I am on a podcast. So that's what it's about, because they're looking for people as well. And it's making sure that you're delivering for their audience. But it's doing the research and doing the work, and how can I leverage it to get it out to people? Because that's, I think, particularly why we write business books, is we want to help people. How can we get that message out? Because we don't want to see people struggling in whatever, your area of expertise is, and give it a go. And then embrace, that real moment when you get the book and it's in the box and you open it up, and then someone says, oh, can I buy your book? And you go, sure, okay. And you then got to sign the book, and you realize I'm now an author, and that's the best moment and the most surreal moment and the scariest moment all into one. But it's brilliant. And it became real for me. And now I'm proud to say I'm an author, from blogs and all of those type of things. So give it a go.
Here's another tip, audience. When you get your book, a box of books, your first box, take a video of you opening it. Share that on your socials.
Didn't do that.
Because it doesn't matter how many books you write. That is such a moment. It's like giving birth, I understand. I've not done that.
Me too. That's what I'd heard,
But tell you what, you're actually seeing in print. You can physically turn the as you're looking at it, physically turn the pages on what you're looking at. Isn't that wonderful? I should also have mine here. Those two books that I have written are part of my 20 kilos, just to say.
Nice. Yep.
Another note, guys, is always have copies of your books with you at all times. I sold a copy at the dentist's. What are you up to these days? Oh, I've just written a book. Have you? Tell us what it's about. They ask those questions when you've got a mouth and all sorts of stuff.
That's right.
But on the way out, have you got one with you? Yes. Oh, I'd love to see it.
That's right.
So
And you
there you
just
go,
never
guys.
know. All those different opportunities, you just never know. I've just had my book has been reviewed and been put into a local small business or a guide type thing in the local sort of areas and stuff. And that just happened. So there's all these different ways where you go, wow, you know, so and it's not a self-promotion, it's just this is part of the leveraging to get it out to help people, because if that's why you're writing it, if you're writing it for sales, you're writing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah,
is my view.
Because the point is, I mean, this is there as an add-on, as an adjunct to your work. You've gone into business with that idea that there's something that you know about that maybe the rest of the world doesn't. And if you're in that situation where you go, well, it's just common sense, can I give you this one? Your common sense is somebody else's rocket science.
Absolutely.
We all come at things from a different perspective. You have your zone of genius. Share it with people because they need to know it.
Yep, that's right. And they may not be ready for it now, but they might be ready for it later. So all of that, and that's about those touch points and things like that. So don't worry if in the beginning it's crickets, because it's about things happen as you get momentum and things like that. People go, oh, is that person who wrote that book? Yeah, I've heard about that. And this, you know, so all of that sort of comes together as part of that process.
Yes. If you are appearing on lots of podcasts, guys, ask if you can, well, I don't even ask, to borrow their logos. And when you've got your website as seen or as heard on, start putting them up. You're giving, again, social proof. These are the podcasts I've been on. And it doesn't matter if they're small fry. The point is, people can then go in and listen and hear what you're like. If you've done any visual stuff, if you've done any speaking gigs, make sure you've got links to your YouTube channel where people can go and check you out.
Yep. I've got videos on my speaker page because I'm still working on the YouTube channel, but I have a freebies page. And one of those is podcasts I've been interviewed on. And once we've done this, that will appear. Because again, it's just all these different ways that you land. And people go, oh, I went to her page for that. And I didn't know she did that, or whatever it might be.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Because you've got that one person in mind. And even, I mean, it feels as though it's going to be exclusive and you're going to knock out all these other people, but it's not, is it? When you've got such clarity on that one person, all the people in the concentric circles around go, ooh, I like her clarity. I like what she stands for.
That's right.
And they come, beautiful. Oh, Tamara, we could talk all day. I would love to as well, but I'm aware of your time. I'm aware of your time because it was it lunchtime for you? Evening.
Yes, but no, it's been great.
I've really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much, Tara, for sharing your from page to stage.
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. I've enjoyed it, and hopefully it's helped those budding authors out there, as well as those speakers and books, and getting them from page to stage.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. For audience, for now, bye from us.